Welcome everybody. This is a new video to the last video I made, and this video I make is the continuation of proving to you the Ankh, that the Ankh is of Shaitan, Lucifer, to prove it that the Ankh is of Shaitan, Lucifer, and the science behind it. In this video, I'm going to expose those things to the connection that we have with the Ankh. As we have previously known in the previous video, that the Ankh was the reason that the Venus symbol came about. And Venus is Lucifer, is Satan, and everything. And I expose how they are trying to make the woman to be Satan. Now I'm going to expose to you the science of Shaitan, and the proof is the Ankh. So this is what you need to understand. If you do not understand and understand and overstand the Shatanic unified force field of the Egyptian, Edomite, Greeks, Roman, Canaanite, Babylonian, dominant, imbalanced, male, homo, bisexual, misogynistic, magical, spiritual, religious power matrix of the white supremacy, where it is and how it works, everything else you know will confuse you. Yes, it is. Everything else you know will confuse you. So what do I mean? This is what I mean. So you mean all will not understand everything else? That everybody will not understand everything else? That's what I'm saying. So I will not understand everything else if I do not understand the metaphysical racist white supremacy principle. And I will stay confused? Yes, you will stay confused. So what is the answer to that? Yes, you will stay confused because the racism is the dominant Shatanic unified fields force matrix in the political, religious, systematic energy force among the people of the planet and in the reality and in all order of activity, economy, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religious, spirituality, sex, and war. So, do you hear what I said? Let me repeat again the whole thing again for you to understand. If you do not understand or stand and overstand the Shatanic unified force field of the Egyptian, Edomite, Greek, Roman, Canaanite, Babylonian, dominant, imbalanced, male, homo, bisexual, misogynistic, magical, spiritual, religious power matrix of the white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else you know will confuse you. So you mean I will not understand everything else if I do not understand the metaphysical racist white supremacy principle, and I write and say to you this? Yes, it will confuse you. Yes, because this racism is a dominant Shatanic unified field force matrix in the political, religious, systematic energy force among the people of the planet and in this reality and in all order of activities, economic, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religious, spirituality, sex, and war. The reason I have to say this is because now we are going into the science of the Ankh and how the Ankh is of Shaitan, Lucifer, and Venus, and Shaitan ruled the world. In the sense of this world, the same Bible says that he is the God of this world, the prince of this world, but there's someone greater than him, that's the almighty creator. But we have to know and differentiate the two. And that is what the science is about to be shown. Let's talk about the Ankh. In this next image that you're going to see, we are going to the tomb of Tutankhamun. Okay? We're going to the Wikipedia. Okay, when you're going to Wikipedia, you're gonna see the Ankh. Okay, and that Ankh was carried by an Egyptian pharaoh. All right, and of course, the Egyptians would have when they are in the grave, things written on the wall, what those things mean and the importance for them. And through this, we can really see the importance of what the Ankh is and the science of the Ankh. I hope you understand what I'm saying. The science of the Ankh. The Ankh in some African languages means like the bull with horn or the cow with horn. Okay, it has been interpreted like that. Okay, well, it means actually also abundance and wealth, because the cow in the Hebrew symbol is also there, represents abundance, it represents power, it represents richness, wealth. Okay, that's what it represents. It represents strength. That's what it represents. So of course, that is the cow. Maybe also called in certain cultures, they call a dialect, they will use like the word like Ankh for it. But you know, the question is, which power source? How does it work? From which source of power does it come from? All right, that's what you need to first understand this thing. And then after you see that, you know that the Ankh had to do with power and wealth, well, what is their belief and the application of that belief? Okay? Because they don't have a symbol that doesn't have power. A symbol has power. They don't worship Shaitan because Shaitan is powerless. No, Shaitan is powerful. You know, you have depictions of Shaitan with a horn, right? Well, remember, the scripture says that Shaitan was an anointed cherubim. And an anointed cherubim, right, has something to do with an anointing upon him, where he has the ability to be a cherubim. That means he was also a cherubim. Okay, it's a power of him. So one of the power of him is to be a bull. Okay, so one of the power of him is for him to be a bull. Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 13. It says this: Thou hast been in the Eden, the garden of the Most High. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, the topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, the carbuncle, the gold, the workmanship of thy tar breadths, and thy pipes was preparing in thee in the day thou was created. So he's talking about he was also in the Garden of Eden. Okay? Back then. Verse 14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so that thou was upon the mountain of the Most High. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stone of fire. Continue. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day, for thou wast created till iniquity formed in thee. By the multitude of thy measures have thou filled the midst of thee with violence. Thou hast sinned, therefore will I cast thee as a profane out of the mountain of the Most High, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, for thou in the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by the reason of thy brightness. I'll cast thee into the ground. I will lay thee before the kings, that they behold thee. That's verse 18. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuary by the middle of thine iniquity. By the iniquity of thy traffic, therefore will I bring forth fire from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all of them that behold thee. So you see that is talking about Shaitan, but now the key verse that we want is Ezekiel 28 verse 14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so that thou wast upon the holy mountain of the Most High. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stone of fire. Now let's look in Ezekiel chapter 10 verse 14. It says, Ezekiel chapter 10 verse 14, it says, and everyone had 4 faces. The first face was the face of a cherub, and the second face was the face of a man, and the third face was the face of a lion, and the fourth face was the face of an eagle. And everyone had 4 faces. The first was the face of a cherub. Okay. The second face was the face of a man. The third was the face of a lion, and the fourth was the face of an eagle. When you go, another example is Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 8 to 10. It said, and they had hands of men under their wings, and the fourth side, and they had 4 had their faces and their wings, and their wings were joined to another, and they turned not when they went, and they went everyone straight forward. As for the likeness of the faces, they 4 had a face of a man, and a face of a lion on the right side, and the 4 had a face of an ox, alright, on the left side, and they had a face of an eagle. Repeat again. And the likeness of the face, therefore, had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right side, and they had a face of an ox on the left side, and they had 4 also that had the face of an eagle. So those 4 is the one being called a cherubim. Okay. Another one, Revelation 4:7. And the first beast was like unto the lion, the second beast was like unto the calf, ox, and the third beast was a face of a man, and the fourth was a beast like a flying eagle. Now, as you can see in the Bible verses that I have now listed, you see that the cherubim has the face of a lion, eagle, man, and a cow with the wings. And also, through this representation, we're going to present to you something special about the image. Is that the face of the cow that you represent is in the cherubim. And because we also read that Satan was an anointed cherubim, we know that Satan would have had a face of a lion, a face of an eagle, a face of a human, a face of a cow, and especially his own extra face, okay, that he has, right? Plus the wings that are there. So he had more than 2 wings, he had many wings, okay? That would be the biblical description of Shaitan as a winged being, okay? So now we can see that the face that we now see is one of it is called the cow or the bull, okay? The cow. That cow face represents the aspect that the ancient cultures have taken and turned it in the form of worship. Okay? So they took only the cow face of it, or Satan emanated only as one figure, which is the cow, right? And the cow with wings, and such they started worshiping him because he is in spirit. They can shapeshift. Let's go. Now we're going into the so-called short history of the word Ankh. Okay, we're going into the word Ankh. And to do this, we are going to see an image that you see. That image, when you look at the screen, okay, is on the left and on the right side, images all over. So let us see. So you see that cow in nature with the tree is called Ankole Watusi. Ankole Watusi, okay, is what they call it. So what is this Ankole Watusi? What is that Ankole Watusi? Okay, what does this Ankole Watusi mean? Alright, so we're gonna go and see what Wikipedia says. What is Ankole Watusi? Alright, it says the Ankole Watusi derives from the cattle of the Ankole group of the Sanga cattle breeds of East and Central Africa. Okay, you hear what it says? East and Central Africa. Alright, so now we're gonna find out what does the name Ankole mean. What does the name Ankole mean? Well, Ankole or Ankole, as you can see, has the word Ankh in it. Ankh, Kore, Ankole. The word Ankh is in it, and it represents the cow, the cattle. Then you have Inca, or the Dinka and Shilluk of Sudan. It says Inyank, or you see the E-N-Y and the Ankh in it. Then you have the south of the Zulu, you have the Nkomo, okay? You have the Ankh, Nkh, and the Omo in it. See how the Ankh keeps repeating? Okay. Then you have the Kukumbo and the Luganda, which is Luganda referred to horn mainly of the cow, right? You have Inkumbe. Okay, you see the Ankh again in Ombe, Ankh in Ombe, Nkumbe, Nkh. Okay. Then you go to Kinyawa, and you have Inca. Okay, Inca. You have the I, the Ankh, or the A at the end. So the Kinyawan, and it has the Inca in it. Okay. Then you go to Uganda, Loro, or Ocholi. You have the Ankh or the Ankh in it. Okay, the Ankh, which is the D and the Ankh symbol again. When you go to Bari of Sudan, okay, Bari of Sudan, you have the Inka Ari, you have the Ankh and the Ari in it. So you can see that those words are in it. Okay. And then you see the Egyptian description of the Ankh with the Ankh symbol. Now all this Ankh in their language represents the cow. But when you see and you look up, you have the Geretse palette. Okay, the Geretse palette, which is found also in archaeology. You see that it's supposed to represent the Ankh. When you go to the very right side, you will see the Ankh in its so-called structure representing the Ankh. Okay, a symbol. So they say that the Ankh will be the horn, but it's not finished. If you look at the picture with the cow, you see the cow having the snake in the Ankh. That's the full circle. The full circle, right? And that's the cow. And that's why you see very right. It comes from the so-called Serapeum Stele, painted in limestone, adoration of the gods Apis, the ancient art Serapeum Stele, painted in limestone. Okay, this was low period 664 to 332 BCE. Okay, Egypt, Paris, Museum de Louvre. Okay, so you can see that stele, that thing that they put on the stone. Okay, they call it a serapeum stele, which is painted limestone. You see a depiction of the cow, right? And you see, as you see the cow, it has the snake on top of the head, the cobra, and then you see on top again the wings, the two wings, right? Which are the cobra, again, two cobras, the one you don't see at the right, but actually two cobras with the sun disc in the middle, which always follows the cobra, and the wings. And then you see the person bowing down to the cow who has a snake also with the sun disc. Okay, so when you go to the very right, you could see that the Ankh could also be made with the cow again. All right, with the snake in the middle. Right, can be also done the same way. So the Ankh is the cow with the snake on the head between the cows, which represents the bull face of the cherubim, the body of Satan, and much more, which we are about to reveal. Okay. Now, they say Ankh means the symbol of life. It's the symbol of life. The cow in the people's culture represents wealth, life, strength. Like I told you, the word Aleph in Hebrew represents abundance. Okay, and you can see the connection because the word Aleph has a pictograph in Hebrew as the cow, right? Represents abundance, strength, and wealth. But it is much more deeper in what it means to be. So we're going to go more deeper in what the Ankh really means, because as you can see, Satan was an anointed cherubim. He had a cow face, right? That cow face you just saw had in the Egyptian had the snake, right? So the snake was always a symbol of Satan. Okay, as we read, it was called the snake in the book of Revelation, and the dragon. So what does that mean? Why does the cow aspect of the cherubim carry the snake? We're going to now unravel the mystery behind it. Now we're going back to Tutankhamun again. On that page of Wikipedia, who is Tutankhamun? Tutankhamun was an Egyptian pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of the royal family during the New Kingdom. He reigned from when he was 9 years old, 1334 BCE, till when he died, 1324 BCE. Tutankhamun was the son of Akhenaten and one of the Akhenaten sisters. Perhaps one of the cousins of KEASAM. Tutankhamun ruled for 9 years and died very young at 19. So he's known as the boy king. And when he married the half sister Ankhesenamun, the daughter of the queen Nefertiti, his stepmother. Okay, so you can see that the thing again. You see his face with the snake crown. Okay, and then the vulture crown. Okay, now when you scroll down, you see something that he is carrying. All right, if you scroll down, you see something on that same Wikipedia page. You will see the symbol of his Ankh. You see it? Now you see the Ankh, right? So what do you see in the middle of the Ankh? That was his Ankh. Okay. So what do you see in the middle of the Ankh? You see the two snakes at the left and the right. Okay. And the scala beetle or the dung beetle in the middle. to understand that's what you're seeing in the Ankh. Okay, so what does that represent? Why a scarab beetle in there? You get it? What does that mean? A scarab beetle inside. Okay, what does that mean? Then it says, when you look at it again in the Wikipedia, it says also the Ankh is shaped mirror creates from the treasure. The mirror itself is missing, probably robbed from the metal that formed its dish. 113. See the number there. Okay, so you see that symbol. So what does that mean? This the scarab left in the snake, and on top of each of them is the sun. We're gonna play. And the scarab has wings, by the way. So now let's go on. Another one. Let's go to the website here. It says EgyptianMuseum.com/Ankh mirror case of Tutankhamun. Okay, Egyptian Museum. You see that? The Ankh mirror case of Tutankhamun is carved in gilded wood. The king's name is inlaid on the lid with colored glass and semi-precious stone. The interior of the case is lined with silver. The mirror once contained was not found. The room was made polished. Gold, silver, copper, bronze were part of the cosmetic accessory of women and men. There were something preserved in this case, such as this elaborate one in the form of an Ankh or a life sign. So you see, it's called also now again a life sign. That the Ankh is a life sign. We see that the Ankh had to do with the cow, right? And that cow was the cherubim. So we're gonna unravel what does the image of the Ankh inside represent. You have the snake, the left and the right, and you see you have what? The beetle, okay, the dung beetle, right? With its wings, okay, attached to it. So what does that mean? What does the whole thing mean? All right, we're gonna unravel the mystery now. Before we're gonna unravel, let us look first at the life cycle of the dung beetle. I repeat again, let us look at the life cycle of the dung beetle. So how does a dung beetle live? Number one, you see the dung beetle, alright, male and female, they mate and they make children. So the dung beetle has a baby, alright, and the one is the male and the one is the female. So what happens next is this. Once the dung beetle is pregnant, the female will be in another place, right? So the first thing they're gonna do is they are going to make a hole in the ground. That's right. The first step is they're gonna do is they're going to make a hole in the ground. Okay? So the next step they're going to do is that the one partner will be in the hole, okay, and the other dung beetle will go to the dung where you get doo-doo or you know, excrement or shit, what they call shit, right? That's doo-doo, okay, where there is dirt, okay, where an animal poops and has shit, and that's where the dung goes, okay? So the dung beetle goes where there is shit, and what he does, he rolls, okay, the dung, okay, he makes, he's taking the shit out, right, and he rolls it. Where does he roll it? He's rolling the shit into the hole called the hole of the beetle, where the beetle will put the doo-doo inside, okay, the shit inside, right? Okay, so the shit is taken and rolled, and that's presented inside the hole. Now, what happens next is that the female dung beetle will put her eggs in the doo-doo, in the shit, okay? In that shit, she puts her eggs inside because she is pregnant, right? So now when the shit that the animal is pregnant, what happens is that other dung, the male partner, is going again to get more shit. Okay, so it's going back again, gets more shit, and rolls it around the desert, right? Because dung beetles are found in the desert. So they took that thing, roll about, and roll it on the desert, comes back and puts it back inside. What happened next? And the wife will collect it again, put her eggs inside, right? The second part. Then the third part, he goes again. Okay, in the nature, gets more dung. Now in that one, he will see a seed. Okay, that seed that he sees, he thinks it's a dung. Okay, he thinks it's dung because it's a black seed, and that black seed, right, that they see, they start to roll. Okay, it's about 1 centimeter in size, right, and they start to roll those seeds. Okay, so as he rolls the seeds, okay, those seeds are transported again where the dung is, right? Those dungs are, because they think, oh, that's a seed, right? And then they put it back in the hole of the dung beetle. Okay, then once they have done it, let's call it the dung nest. Once they have transported everything there, okay, all right, you might go again, get some more dung, depends how big it is, and transports it again and puts it on top. So you have what they call in a hole a dung with egg from a dung beetle, 1, 2, and then the third one will be theoretically a seed, which is a plant seed that looks like dung, which because he cannot differentiate, and he puts it in, and then he goes back again and gets the real dung, and then again and puts it back in the hole again, and then it has an egg from a beetle. So what happens in this process? In that process, the dung, right, that is inside with this will now the egg which is inside the cell of the dungs, right, which are the dung eggs, or the beetle eggs, excuse me, the beetle eggs, which are inside the dung, starts to eat the dung, the doo-doo, the shit, okay? And that shit as it's using to eat, right, is what makes it to grow. And then the so-called seed from the plant that is in between will use that aspect of the dung, right, which are the leftovers, and turn that one into what they call fertilizer. What happens, the seed will start to grow from the ground, and grasses or whatever the plant that it represents in that moment will start to grow. Okay, and that is what then grows, and that's what they call life. That's the life, which we call the life. Okay, very important to know. This is what the dung beetle represents. It represents the recycling of life. The recycling of life. So the aspect of it is to transform death into life. That is the nature of what the dung beetle is doing. So you see the dung beetle representing. So the dung that they roll also represents the sun. Okay? An entire process represents life from the sun. That new life is born from the dung. Okay? Okay? Both the egg of the beetles that eats from doo-doo and the seed of the plant that eats from the dung. Hope you understand it, right? So then things start to grow. But now comes the next aspect of it. Now, this is another factors that you have. There's what they call the conversation.com/dung beetle are duped into ruling and buying seed 66692. So it talks about how dung beetles are duped into ruling and burying seeds. So it talks about right there how the seed that you see are duped into thinking that it's dung that they're ruling, but it's there actually to bear the seed. Okay. Now the environment that this happens, if you Google it, the dung beetle of the Egypt is a desert animal. You come to the AI answer says, yes, the dung beetle, specifically the species Scarabeus saga, often called the sapid scarab, is indeed the desert desert animal. It is indeed a desert animal. While they are found in various environments of every continent except Antarctica, deserts are one of the habitats they inhabit. So in other words, it's mainly that version is in the desert. Alright? That you have to understand. So the environment is a desert. Okay? Now, what does it have to do with all of them right now? What it has to do with the Ankh, right? What you see in the symbol. Let's go back to the picture. Look at the symbol again. What does it have to do with all of it? We're going to break it down. As you can see, in the symbol, you had a fire symbol on the head of the snake, and you had a fire symbol on the head of the dung beetle or the scarab. Okay, now let's break it down. Let's go to the deity called Khepri, Khepri. At Wikipedia it says Khepri, also known as Khepri or Khepri, is a scarab-faced god in the ancient Egyptian religion who represents the rising of the morning sun. By extension, he can also represent the creation and the renewal of life. The name Khepri, it's the etymology right now, the name Khepri appears in the Pyramid text and usually include the scarab Hebrew as a determinative or ideogram as a potential means to make an allusion of the god clear. Khepri is mentioned in the Amulat as a god intrinsically linked to the cycle of the sun and Ra's nightly journey through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. Okay. Khepri is derived from the Egyptian language verb meaning to develop, to create. So you can see that Khepri has to do with the sun god Ra, okay, and his journey through the underworld, the Duat. Okay, and so the underworld is going there, okay, and the Khepri or Khepra, okay, like I said, represents what? Creation and the renewal of life, the recycle of life. It's dealing with recycling, going from life to death, and from death to life. So, in other words, they acknowledge that when doo-doo or shit comes, that shit with his death, right, is now taken and recycled back to life. Remember, the cow shits in the desert, and what does the dung beetle do? It takes that from the cow and recycles that into life. It means if the dung beetle uses that and makes life with it. Alright, puts his baby eggs in it and puts some seed in it, right, from a plant, and things grow back again, and there's the multiplication of beetles. So in other words, it cleans the environment and recycles and brings back to life, but it goes in their mythology to the underworld. That means that's why it's in the ground representing darkness, or when it's in the sun, it's taken represented, coming back to us. When it produces life, it represents life. But when the scarab comes, right, the Khepri comes, the dung beetle comes, okay, that animal creature, it takes it back to the underworld where it's recycled and brought back to life. That is what it means, but it goes further. Now, Ra, and Wikipedia says this, or Re, it says this, okay, was the Egyptian deity of the sun by the 5th dynasty in the 25th and the 24th century BCE. He had become one of the most important gods in the ancient Egyptian religion, identified primarily as the noonday sun. Ra ruled in all parts of the created world, the sky and the earth, and the underworld. He was believed to have ruled at first as pharaoh of the ancient Egypt. Okay? So he was believed to have ruled as the first pharaoh of ancient Egypt. He was a god of the sun, order, king, and the sky. Ra was portrayed as a falcon and shared characteristics with the sky god Horus. The deities of both of them merge as Ra-Ho-Ra-Kathi. Ra, who is Horus of the two horizons. Okay? As you see that picture, right? That's Ra, that's supposed to be Horus, the falcon god. And you see the snake, right? That's the sun, that's the energy, that's the power source, which is encircled by the snake. I mean, the snake contains, the cobra contains the snake, okay? And then you see the symbol of the rod of Set, and you see him holding the Ankh symbol in the right hand. Alright? Just observe. I'm going to explain. To confirm this, let me give you an original. This is another imagery, okay? Where you see again Ra, okay, is the example background in the descendant of Isis. This website is called galesketch.com, okay? That's the website. They say Ra is a central background character in the descendants of Isis, for the secret name which Natala and Seth had protected from Seth. The Egyptians considered the sun to be a potential life force, with Ra as the preeminent solar deity. He was self-created, born from the primal waters of Noon, chaos, thus making the king of the gods. However, he is an old as the gods. In Egyptian culture, the first reference to Ra dates back to the 5th dynasty. During the Middle Kingdom, Ra was absorbed by Amun and became Amun-Ra, only to be separated again during the New Kingdom. So you see that image at the left is Isis. You see again the fighting god in that sense, Ra, the so-called sun disk. Well, that sun disk again, you see the snake, all right, around it, which is the cobra, the snake holding the sun. Okay, notice that. Okay, let's go back again to the Ankh. So you see in the middle the scarab, the sun, and the right and the left again you see the cobra with the sun. So the cobra and the sun go together. You see it, right? So we're going to give you another image with details more than what you see. Now, as you can see, the image that you see now is from a specific website, okay? But you need to understand, the website is called cdn.thecollector.com. Okay? You see it on the screen, right? Alright, that's from that website. That is the image. Now watch this. As you look into the image, you see again 2 lions with a feather, a snake circle with the snake head, again in the sun, right? Remember the beetle carries the sun, okay, heaven and earth, right? Well, you see again the snake on top of a curvy thing. Well, that curvy thing is called the linga. The lingam represents the phallus. You can still see that symbol, right, in the ancient Hinduism today. They had lingams, okay? Now you see again the next image. You see again a winged being, right, with the so-called scarab, okay? The scarab that is inside, and you see the snake and the leg of the snake and something, and then you see the next image going, something very weird. You see 2 deities. I'm gonna stop right there, and these 2 deities, you see, having their penis shown open, and the other guy is putting his penis in his own mouth under him, while the bigger guy is having his penis over his anus, okay? And then between the leg on the big guy, you see the Egyptian god Set. I'll break it down now. So what do you see right there? You're seeing something in the mythology of the ancient Egyptian creation. Like we said before, how Ra came about, which is called, these 2 males that you see is Geb and Osiris, okay? If you go to British Museum, it says this. It says this: the scene of autophilatia of the only scene of cosmos, as not on Geb, seen on the right of the frame. Here our special in the night sky seems to represent as a man who is identified as Osiris. Foremost Westerners make heaven, make earth, maker of Nile world. The other figure identified as the Geb, the father of the gods, the great god, who made the earth and all the sun in circles. Okay? The fact that Osiris is the Ephialtic presumably refers to the fact that he is the potent and the resurrected, while Geb is the Autophalicio, presumably a way of representing himself as sustaining fertility like the masturbating creator god. Although alone he is still capable of creation, the motives of God push up, but they say it's not a sex act, is parallel to the scene which shows the deity androgynous indicates fertility. Okay, this is what they say. Now when I look at that picture, you see that black thing right there between the two legs, because one's supposed to be Osiris, one's supposed to be Geb, but you see that a leg is Set. Okay, Set will be that. Okay, Set will be the deity. Okay, now for me it looks like a homosexual act, even though people may not say it's homosexual. What do you say? I mean, it clearly looks homosexual, because why would the penis be on top of his anus, and at the same time why would the penis be directed at the mouth? What I'm seeing is a homosexual act of creation. What do you see? Does that not look homosexual to you? I mean, you cannot see in the picture as the guy puts his penis in his mouth. Well, he doesn't put his penis in his mouth directly, but he's pointing to his mouth, right? And the other guy is like pointing his penis toward his anus. You know, it seems very homosexual in my eyes, but we're gonna prove it more. Let us go back to the imagery again. Okay, let us go back to the imagery of the Ankh. Okay, let's go back to the Ankh and let's see what is in that Ankh, right? Let's go and see. You see again in that image of the Ankh is the dung beetle and the two snakes in the left and the right. Now you can see in that thing, right, small circles. Well, that represents the whole. That represents the Ankh, okay? True, which is coming from. What it represents, as I'm going to tell you, is this. Number one, it represents the Kefri is a deity that deals with shit, recycling shit back to life. Now, where does shit come out? Question. The shit comes out of the anus. So, okay, you have the anus, there's the shit, right? And when the shit is in the anus, okay, normally you go to toilet or in nature you shit on the ground and don't below one. But let's say that shit is not just in the anus. Let's say the deity Kefra is in the body of the person. To prove that, we have to look at the crowns of the Egyptians. Let's look at the crowns of the Egyptians. Okay? Let's look at the crowns of the Egyptians. When you look at the crown of the Egyptians that you see that the crown of the Egyptians contain a snake symbol. Why would there be a snake symbol on the crown of Tutankhamun with the cobra symbol on the head? Why is there a snake symbol? Let's see what it says on Google. Snake crown was a symbol of all Egyptians, or most Egyptians. The Orion cobra symbol was not a crown itself, but a prominent symbol worn on the crowns of the Egyptian pharaohs and queens. It represents the goddess Wajet, to symbolize royalty, divine authority, protection, particularly of the Lower Egypt, while the Orioneos was a key part of the royal regalia. It was worn by all Egyptians. So you see, it was a symbol of all Egyptians to wear the crown. The royals are wearing cobra symbol. Okay. was not a crown itself, but a prominent worn on the crowns of the Egyptian pharaohs and queens. So you can see that symbol among them. You see that symbol also among the Egyptians. Alright? So, as you see that symbol among the Egyptians, right? As a snake on the head, where does the snake come from? Well, you see in that picture I just showed you, between Osiris and Geb, you saw Set. Now let's see who Set is. Who is Set? Let's look. Who is Set? Okay. Let's look there. Let's go to homosexuality in ancient Egypt. Okay, let's see what it says. Horus and Set. A common story of Egyptian mythology is a homosexual encounter between the two rival gods, Horus and Set. An allusion to the story of the first appeared in the pyramid text from the Egyptian Old Kingdom. It continued to appear throughout Egyptian history. The two most complete versions of the story appear in the Kohunum Papyrus, the Middle Kingdom Papyrus, and the contending of Horus and Set, known in Egyptian. The story indicates that the Egyptians viewed sexual penetration by another man as humiliating. That's what they say, okay? Let's continue. When who is Set? Let's look at it. Set, often depicted with a unique animal head known as Set, the animal, is a powerful Egyptian god associated with chaos, desert, storm, and violence. He's featured in many Egyptian mythology stories, highlighting his role as both destroyer and protector. So Set is the god of chaos and desert. So let's go back to the scarab. So where does the scarab get his dung from? The desert. And what does he do? And how does he roll and cover it? With the desert sand. He's rolling it, some sand of it will enter and he's rolling the thing, right? And it's part of the desert. Okay? So then you see the dung plays an important role in the desert and taking that what is in the desert, everything that's dead, back to life. Okay? So let's see what else it could mean, alright? So what else could it mean? Let's go here. So you will get it. I'm going to prove to you that the snake is much more than you think between the head. And I'm going to prove to you right now that the reason the Kephra is there, because the Kephra, the scarab, represents something on the anus inside, okay? And that Ankh symbol on top represents the anus. That's why the Kephra was in the circle, not outside the circle. It was in the circle. And that's why the snake was in the circle. Because this is known in the magic system as Kundalini rising. I'm going to prove it to you with examples of Egyptian text. Here, this one. It says, Ra has no power over me, for I am he who takes away his breath. Atum has no power over me, I copulate between his buttocks. Okay? That's what the coffin text states. The coffin text states also this. Ra has no power over me, for I am he who takes away his breath. Atum has no power over me, I copulate between his buttocks. Suggests that Ra and Atum could be rendered powerless by being made submission partner in anal intercourse. Okay? So you can see and hear this. That Ra has no power over me, for I am he who takes away his breath. Atum has no power over me, for I copulate between his buttocks. You're gonna decipher this thing. Another one. For a man to be among the living is between the cow of Geb. I will escape this, and Geb will be purified and give me his crown. May he place for me his ear corn which upon his mouth is placed between his buttocks of his son and his hair. If a man also has no son against the back of the daughter of the phoenix that acts. Let me repeat again. For a man to be among the living is between the cows of Gad. I will escape this, and Gad will be purified. May he give me his crown. May he place for me his ear corn, which is upon his mouth, his penis between his buttocks of his son, and his hair. If a man has no son, it is against the back of the daughter of the phoenix that acts. So let me repeat that again. His penis between his buttocks of his son and the hair. That's the common text 700 VI 33AJ. Okay? So you can see that again, he's talking about the hair. What is the hair? Like a hair means someone that is initiated to become the next ruler, or are supposed to rule, are supposed to come after. So when he says his penis between his buttocks of his son and his hair, it means it is a initiation ritual to be done, because you'll be initiated, become a crown of Pharaoh. When you carry this crown, a snake hook on hand, you have to be initiated through an anal sex. Let me read it. That's why he says here, for a man to be among the living is between the cows of Gad, in the cows. I will escape this, and Gad will be purified. May he give me his crown. What was the Egyptian crown? We just read. The Egyptian crown was what? The cobra, the snake. And the other one is the vulture, but the vulture is another level. Let's talk about the crown of the snake. May he place for me his ear corn, which upon his mouth, his penis between his buttocks of his son and his hair. If a man has a son, it is against the back of the daughter of the phoenix that he acts. There's another depiction. It's called the Ramesses period ostrakon, depicting a homosexual couple in cautious, two men having sex together. The contending of Horus and Set contains nearly completely preserved story of the trial between Horus and Set, decide which one should hold the throne of Egypt. In one episode of the story, Set invites Horus to his house. When lying together in one bed, Set penetrates Horus, and Horus catches his semen with his hand and hides it. The next morning, Horus runs to his mother to tell her what happened, and Isis chops off Horus' hand, throws him in the river, then replaced him. He calls Horus to masturbate and uses his semen to lubricate Set's favorite food, which is called Egyptian lettuce. Oblivious, Set eats and manipulates lettuce and arises pregnant with the seed of Horus. And when Horus Set in return, the divine Set declares that he has performed the work of a male upon Horus. The divine court cries out and speaks before Horus, but does not react negatively to Set until it revealed that Set's semen is in the river where Isis threw his severed hands, while Horus' semen is inside of Set. Horus is then declared to be the victor of this encounter. This is a way they do their thing, you know. They just like their sex, you know what I'm saying, between mans and mans, you know. That's what you're reading. That's in Wikipedia on Horus and Set. So now let's go back to the story of Geb and Osiris. You see the image? That is Set between the two legs, alright? And that is a homosexual act, alright? So we're gonna explain to you what the scepter mean. Yeah, it's called the Was scepter. The Was scepter was the power dominating. The scepter is a symbol that appeared often in relics art, had been associated with the ancient Egyptian religion. It appears as a stylus animal head at the top of a long straight staff with a forked end. The Was scepter was used as a symbol of power of dominion, and was associated with the ancient Egyptian deities such as Set and Anubis, as well as with the Pharaoh. The Was scepter also represents Set animal or the Kumun, and later used it was a symbol of control over the force of chaos that Set represented. In the funeral context, there was a scepter responsible for the well-being of the deceased, and those sometimes included the tomb of equipment or in the decoration of the tomb coffin. The scepter is also considered an amulet. The Egyptians perceived the sky as being supported on four pillars, which could have the shape of the Was. The scepter was the symbol of the fourth Upper Egyptian nome of the nome of Thebes, called Waset in Egyptian. The Was scepter was depicted as being carried by gods, pharaohs, and priests. They commonly occur in painting, drawings, carving of gods, often parallel with the emblem of such as the Ankh, the jet pillar, and reminds the physical was a scepter. The Was scepter were depicted as being carried by the gods of pharaoh priests. They commonly occur in painting, drawing, carving of the gods, often parallel with the emblems such as the Ankh and the jet pillar. They remind the physical scepter have been found. They are constructed by fierce or wood, and the head, hand, fork, tail of said animal are visible. The earliest example date to the first dynasty. Now look at the picture in the middle. Again, with the set Ankh symbol. Okay, and you see the stela showing you the Isis goddess. Okay, so what you are on the Ra also the same thing. So you see in the middle that was set. What did we say? The word set. You see again, head of the physical was scepter made from Faientin, or shaped animal's head, fork tail. The Was in the Egyptian root represents power. Okay, now you can see that it is used by them. Okay, all right, and it was a symbol of Set, right? And that's why when you see that same image, when we're going back to that picture, okay, you see again in that picture that's Set in that homosexual act. Okay, you see that image, when you look at it, that's sex in that homosexual act. Set. Okay, and I gave you that video before. Let me see again. The Set is related to the word Shaitan, which is a shit from Bobby Hammett. Okay, this is what the scholars are saying. Set is related to the word shit. So I will see now how the Kefri in the Ankh is related to Set, because the Set symbol was out of the Ankh. Okay, so you see that, right? But then there's another thing. In the middle between the Ankh, the circle, and the line, that is known as the jet pillar. On the jet pillar represents the spinal cord. Read it again. He says the jet or the jit is one of the most ancient common forms of ancient Egyptian religion. It's the pillar-like symbol of the Egyptian hieroglyph, represents stability, associated with the creator of Ptah and Osiris. The Egyptian god of afterlife and underworld, the dead, is commonly understood that represents the spine. Okay, so it represents the spine, the backbone of the god of Osiris, and we just read that. Gab and Osiris were doing something, right? Okay, you will see now. This Kefri has the symbol Set and the Ankh. All right, who has the symbol? The Egyptian sun god Ra has a symbol of Set and the symbol of the snake. Okay, at oldworldgods.com you see that picture, all right? In Wikipedia you see that picture. It's the snake head, the Ankh, and the Set symbol. Okay, you see the same thing. And then you see the different gods having different rods, right? But what they all have in common is that they have one aspect of the symbol, either of Set, of the Ankh, or both, or the snake. That is what you could see among all of them. They have either the Ankh, the snake crown, the snake on the head, or the Set symbol. Whether they have three of them or one of the two, only one of them. But all of them have this symbol as a form of presentation, or are indirectly presented to it. I'm going to say most of them. Okay, so let us now break it down. What is going on? Let me explain. let me explain what is going on. And then I'm going to prove it to you from what source I have to learn. Let us go back to the Ankh symbol. Now, as you see, what is going on actually is a homosexual act. What is going on is that we have met and read that the initiation involves anal sex. So what happens is that the kefri, which is in the anus, when they have sex in the anus, right, the semen will go there. That semen is the seed that the scarab, the dung beetle spirit, in the anus will take. It will take it, and what it calls, it will vibrate it. It will create something out of it. Because remember, the dung beetle, when it puts in the hole, is in the underworld. Well, that's what happened. We said when they do the anus, they're going into the underworld, the lower world. Okay, and what happened? The seed, the sperm seed, represents the egg. Okay, represents the seed of the plant. Okay, on that seed, like the plant, is now being recycled by the what? By the what? By the dung beetle, the spiritual dung beetle, which is the scarab. Okay? Well, as dung beetle recycles, the snake will awake, which is the cobra, and that cobra will rises up through the anal sex intercourse. Okay, and the skunk and dung beetle will convert it. They will convert this semen to life. So whatever it grows out of that dung, out of this conversion, is going to be the what? Snake. The snake will grow and rise, and it goes up the spinal cord, and then it goes through your brain into your head. On that, when it goes into your head, that is known as the third eye. Now, as I've explained to you, the Ankh containing the kefri, the beetle, the dung beetle, and that circle that is in, ask yourself this question. The dung beetle has to do with shit. The ball is the shit that he rolls, right? Why would the shit be? Where would the shit be? In the hole of the anus or in the hole of the vagina? Where would the shit be? In the hole of the anus or in the hole of the vagina? Ask yourself this question. Where would the shit be? In the hole of the vagina or in the anus? Where would the beetle be? Where the shit is or where no shit is? The beetle would be there where the shit is. So that hole or that circle in the Ankh represents the anus, because the Kefra, that beetle deity, is the deity that resides between the anus and the anus, so in the anus. And we're going to prove to you in that sense, in the concept of condom was invented in ancient Egypt. He said yes, according to Google, AI responds, yes, traces of the condom have been found dating back to ancient Egypt, making them some of the most earliest known methods. Evidence suggests that around 1350 BCE, the Egyptians used condoms made of linen, sometimes soaked in olive oil. These were personally worn for ritual or sexual purpose, and some were even dyed in different colors, potentially indicating social class according to one source. Now, this is getting interesting. So he's talking about a sexual purpose, a ritual. Why would you wear condom? Think about it. You just read before that this was one of the sexual rituals, okay, that you were doing. So in that sexual ritual that we just mentioned, that is used condom for, the ritual was the anal sex. You hear me right? The ritual that they used was the anal sex. Okay, another one, Exodus. In the so-called, it's called www.dw.com. Okay, in a topic called condom to protect against snake down there. The first mention of condom like device dates back 3000 BC. King Minos, whom you might remember for his grand label containing a miniature at the center, was said to use the gold bladder to protect sexual partners from contracting rather unusual sexual disease. Legend has it that Minos' semen contained serpent and scorpions. Sound unpleasant? Indeed, some can claim that Minos shared out his penis with gold bladder, while others say the Pasiphae inserted it into the vagina in order to prevent those pesky animals from biting the private parts. Either way, it's the earliest account of bladder device used to prevent that was still today and would consider be sexually transmitted disease. So, the Minos is talking about there, only the class-coded condoms. The ancient Egyptians used protection as well. Archaeologists, however, carted in the term found condom in Tutankhamun's tomb, containing samples of pharaoh's DNA. It was made of fine linen soaked in olive oil and had been attached to a string that research believed would have tied around his waist, dated back 1350 BCE. Condoms weren't just for the god's king either. Other Egyptians used them too, but only in color, assigned to their social class. No chance of fooling your date into believing you were part of the pharaoh's inner circle. When the color of your condom was made you out to be a lowly farmer. So you can see that they used condom. There was some homosexuality going on in ancient Egypt, that seems they've been doing it, you know. And by the way, who is Minos? Who is Minos? Do you know who Minos is? In the Greek mythology? Do you know who Minos is in the Greek mythology? It's also known as what? Is known as what? What is he known for? What do you think? Minos. Okay. Who is Minos? Think about it. Okay. Who is Minos? Who do you think he is? Think about it. Minos is the name of the king of the Cretes. In the Greek mythology, he was the son of Zeus and Europa. His reign is known to establish the laws of a powerful navy that will contain the Minotaur. What? A Minotaur. So, a labyrinth containing a Minotaur. What is the Minotaur? Okay, what is the Minotaur in the Greek mythology? The Minotaur is, again, a bull with a human body, a muscular bull with a human body. It's known as Minotaurus. That's the Minotaur. Is in the mythology a man with a what? Human body and a head like what? A bull. Think about it. So it's somehow going back to the what we were saying at the same time. It's going back to the same thing. It says in the Greek mythology, Minotaur, also known as Asterion, is a mythical creature portrayed during classical antiquity with a head and a tail of a bull and the body of a man, while described as a Roman poet by Ovid, being part man and part bull. It dwelt in the center of the labyrinth, which was an elaborate maze-like construction designed by the architect Iadios and his son Icaros upon the command of the king of Minos of Crete. derived from the ancient Greek compound of the name Minos and the noun Taurus, meaning bull. It's translated as bull of Minos. Minos. The Greek miniature was known by the name Asterion, a name shared with Minos' foster father. It's making sense, right? So Minos had to do something with miniatures. So let's read it again. It says, what did it say? It says this. Let's go back to what we read. What did it say? Let's see what it says. Because it makes sense, right? Is a person with the bull hair, a body. But let's see what the article said again. It says this. Let's look at it. To read it again. About the condom. Snake down there. Let's read it again. The first mention of condom like the dates back 3000 BC by King Minos, when you might remember, for his giant level containing a miniature as its center, was said to use a gold bladder to protect his sexual partner from contracting a rather unusual sex disease. The legend had is that Minos' semen contained serpent and scorpions. Sound unpleasant indeed. Some accounts of claim that Minos shattered his penis with the gold bladder, while others say the white sphere inserted it into the vagina in order to prevent those pesky animals from biting her private parts. Either was an earliest account or burial device used to prevent that we today would consider sexual transmitted disease. So there's a connection to the word miniaturos means Minos and bull. There's something there, the connection between the bull and the whole thing. Okay, another one from Tutankhamun, ancientorigins.net. When Tutankhamun's tomb was first discovered in 1922, art legends how Wakata was stunned by the astonishing array of the grave goods. More than 5,000 articles were left for the boy, the king, to use the afterlife. But among the gold, silver, ebony, ivory, precious jewelry, weapons, furniture, and the linen, and the rare perfumes, a small piece of cloth caught the eyes of the expert. It was the king's tooth condom, and apparently it was deemed essential for him to take into eternity. Tutankhamun's condom, which contained traces of his DNA, consisted of sheath made of fine linen soaked in olive oil, attached to a string that would have tied among the waist. Dated to 1350 BCE, it is the oldest known condom in existence. If the condom was used for contraception rather than ritual purpose or prevention of disease, it's only been very effective indeed. To remain the two fetuses were also found in his tomb. A genetic test revealed King Tut was the father. Sorry, I have to laugh. Okay, so some crazy shit was going on then, you know. That's what's going on, you know. So you see the connection again and again. Okay, all right. Yes, I would say you go to the next point to prove further some other things that people don't know, and we're gonna prove it further. Let's go to the concept of the Baphomet. You see the Baphomet? According to AI overview, what is the Baphomet? The Baphomet is often depicted as the horned deity, and particularly the ram god shares some similar, particularly with the association with fertility and creation. However, the Baphomet represents and evolved over time, with occultists combining elements of the ram god Jet, also known as the dog of Mandis, was either the imagery to create a symbol of balance and equilibrium. So you see that concept again. The Baphomet again came back from Egyptian deities. Okay. So remember those Egyptian deities all had snake on the head. Next one. In some and within Egyptian mythology, the serpent or the snake can be associated with male sperm or fertility. The serpent god Nebakral or Nebkal, for example, is sometimes described as the original snake who emerged from the earth, represented the primordial male power, similar to the god Subek, known as connection with the fertility and the pharaonic power. Also had a serpentine form. In the myth of Amun, the egg is depicted as a serpent depositing semen in the form of an egg, which leads to birth of other gods. Notice this. Now, when you look at the Baphomet, the image of the Baphomet, you see the Baphomet, okay, wears a horn with the Kundalini and having the breast of a woman. Okay, so you see the Baphomet having the Kundalini, and that Kundalini is the snake. You see that is moving. You see that? So you see again a connection which came back from ancient Egypt. They had to do all with the Kundalini, the snake, the python spirit, the Set, which was in the Ankh. It seems that the Egyptians were so much into anal sex that it was not nasty for them to use certain type of contraceptions, because even though it might stink down there, it may not stink also in the vagina too. But this is what they use as contraception, which is called the gynecological papyrus, dating back to around 1825 BC, does indeed mention the use of mixture of crocodile dung and other unknown ingredients as a contraception method. The mixture was likely formed into a passerine and device inserted into the vagina. One hypothesis suggests that the alkaline nature of the crocodile dung could have acted as a spermicide. Spermicide means something that causes suicide to the sperm, that will homicide is where that will kill the sperm. You understand? So that will kill the sperm, stop the sperm. Okay, you know. So they use a mixture of crocodile dung and unknown ingredients as a contraception method. There's some real things going on right there, right? In the secret societies. So they did not care about that. They didn't care about what they use. So to open the eye, what they call the all-seeing eye of Horus. Okay, this anal sex was used to open the eyes, Kundalini to rise, for them to see. The eye is in the brain, called the third eye. It says this: to erase Cobra symbol or all-seeing eye of Horus. The center of the next page features the eye of Horus that is called the all-seeing eye and the Wajet. The eye is flanked by a neckbed. The winged vulture goddess represents the upper Egypt, and the Wajet, the Cobra god, represents the lower Egypt. Once again, the Orias represents the highly prominent role in the picture as the full-size Cobra, crowned by the double crown of the United Egypt. By the way, the vulture that you see, or that bird, right? It means another thing altogether, a more versatile thing, the vulture, because the vulture is associated with a certain form of sacrifice of human beings, to say. Okay? The vulture is associated with a form of sacrifice of human beings. And we discussed it in the guns on it's the next level, because before you come to that next level, first the cobra will come. When the cobra will come to vulture, which is the dealing with sacrificing of human beings, you know. going to continue. We continue talking about the aspect is how does it now connect to today. So the bridge that we're going to make is from a specific author. His name is Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan. He says this: we can begin with the Emperor Theodosius, who issued the first edict and started the final downfall of the teaching of the mystery from the Nile Valley High Culture up to the 4th century CE. For up to this period of the earliest European style Christianity in Rome and Greece, the mystery systems secret were taught unabated throughout all of the Roman and the Greek and Europe. I repeat again. For up to this period in the earliest European style Christianity in Rome and Greece, the mystery system secret were taught unabated throughout all of Rome and Greek and Europe. Called Understanding the African Philosophical Concept Behind the Diagram of the Law of the Opposites by Joseph A. Ben Yochanan. Another book is from Axiom and Quotation of Joseph Ben Yochanan, published 1980. So this is where you can see they have been teaching the churches and the Europeans, the Greek and the Romans, the mystery system. Okay, alright, they have been teaching them. And to prove this further is we are going to go into certain quotations of what the secret society are doing today. Now, for us to know who exposed what the secret societies are doing, we are going into a magician, an occultist, a ritualist. His name is called Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley, okay? It's called about the secret he's going to expose. I'm going to bring that out, okay? So this is what Aleister, who is Aleister Crowley? That's what we're going to start with. He says, he was part of the so-called Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secret society formed in 1888, and neophyte in the Golden Dawn as the Isis Urania Temple at Mark Mason Hall on November 26, 1898. Then he benefited instructed Crowley in ceremonial magic and the ritual use of drugs. Methods in Paris, who admitted him into the Adeptus Minor grade at June 1819. He had introduction to Don Jesus Medina, a descendant of the Duke of Armada fame, a high chief of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Don Medina pushed Crowley rapidly through the 33rd degree. Joined the Anglo-Saxon Lodge number 343, he cartoned by the Grand Lodge of the France. Crowley was further the least to believe that his initiation into Anglo-Saxon Lodge number 343 on 8th of October 1904 had secured his membership of regular Freemasonry. Okay. Crowley was taken to the museum where a woman showed him his 7th century BC offering stela called the Stela of the Ankh Pt7.B, aka the Stela of Revealing. Another one. Crowley thought it was significant that the number of the exhibit was 666, referring to the biblical beast and the title with which Crowley relished. So you can see that the Ankh Pt7.B, the Stela of Revealing, was exhibited from it as 666, which was the mark of the beast. Okay, this is from www.thesquaremagazine.com/Meg article 2028 Aleister Crowley minus irregular minus Freemason dash. So you see, he was in all different Freemasonic lodges. He was all over, okay? And it wasn't more than that. I did not recall now all the other ones, but he was in a deep thing, and also with politicians and stuff like that. He was in deep thing, which I'm not now going to reveal that one, but just that and that aspect. But let's talk about another one. Let's talk about what That is the Crowley said, and it is found in Modern Sex Magic from Donald Michael Craig. Okay, it says this. These are the quotes. 11th degree, homosexual sex magic. The system is based on that of the Ordos Templis Orientis. The outer degree of the organization are similar in nature to the various degrees found in Masonic law throughout the world. One story I hear claimed that if you could tell Crowley that the nature of the higher degree, that they were focused on sex magic, then Crowley would immediately make you a member of one of those degrees. So you would be obligated through your oath to the order not to reveal the secret of the degree. Whether this is the apocryphal story or is based on the fact, I do not know, but there is a basic system above the altar degree. Described doing the 11th degree ritual with women. This implies that such magic involves anal intercourse and is not limited to male-to-male couples. Continue. Another quote. 11th degree. In the system of the Ordos Templis Orientis, Otto, it is referred to the degree in which the person learns about the using anal sex for the sex magic. Some magic have assumed that this is limited to sex magic as practiced by males, and this is a code used by some magicians to mean sex magic practiced by gay or bisexual men. However, Crowley's diary shows that he used this term to represent sex magic using anal sex with men or women. Another one. Physical exercise for men, titled Physical Exercise for Men, Kegels for Men. The basic exercise for strengthening the muscles used in sex is identical to the version for the woman. While urinating, use your muscles to stop the flow of the urine. I repeat again. The basic exercise for the strengthening the muscles used in sex is identical to the version of the woman. While urinating, use your muscles to stop the flow of the urine. Then it says, allow the urine to flow again. Repeat this until there's no more urine in the bladder. Be sure that you are not merely contracting the anal sphincter. When you are familiar with the sensation with this exercise, can be repeated anywhere and at any time. Slowly walk up to the last 100 repetitions per day. That's an anal sex training ritual, what they are doing. Okay, describe there what they are doing. All right. Another quote in the same book, it says, in England, he had been part of the Hellfire Club of Sir Francis Dashwood and all probably of participation in some of the organized orgiastic rites. I repeat, in England has been part of the Hellfire Club of Sir Francis Dashwood and all probability participated in some of the orgiastic rites. At one time he wrote a letter to a young relative giving him advice on choosing a mistress, suggesting that he get an older woman for a variety of reasons, including because he would be so grateful. Another of these reasons of the article is titled Felt Proudly, about which is no more need be said. Frankly, was no prude. If the sexuality in some mesmeric treatment, as well as the sexual overtones of the mesmerism in general, was the cause for this support or report, why would he object? Said this, in my opinion, part of the techniques leading to the mesmeric trance was a sexual arousal. This in turn led to the crisis followed by healing. In other words, under the control of the mesmerized, the induced sexual arousal led to a trance which leads to a seemingly unrelated change, but change that are desired by both the patient and the mesmerized, a change controlled by will. This is the very definition of magic. This is the very definition of magic. And the method to achieve that magic, trance induced by sexual arousal. In short, a form of sex magic this technique. I believe where he derived directly or indirectly from the Kabbalistic sexual trance technique which are described in the earlier, were probably known to some Freemasons. Now there is a reason for the friend to deny the reality of AM. Of course, he would be an upgrade to that knowledge of sex magic being made available to the public. After all, he was a high-ranking Freemason and had certainly vowed to keep the secret from the outsiders. Next one says, and where exactly did Swedenborg and Mesmer learn about what they are taught? Perhaps they channel it through a dialogue in their own. More likely, however, is that they develop it out of their own training. Certainly, Swedenborg could have learned it from the Kabbalah he studied, but both of them could have gotten it from another source. After all, both of them are high-grade Freemasons. If you're working on raising the Kundalini, however, you can enjoy sex magic successfully, provided that you keep your spine straight, visualize your spine cord in your brain conduit, and target the respiratively. The pranayama technique is called the breath of fire, occurs in the natural during arousal and orgasm, and should be allowed free reign within no concern about noise. Now you see that this was what the Freemasons are doing, and the system that Mr. Crowley had, okay, which is also from Freemason. That's what they were doing, is what they call anal sex, to raise the Kundalini. And in fact, in the Ordos Templis Orientis auto, it is the highest degree or the highest form of sex magic is anal sex. It is their secrets of secrets, okay? Like if I'm talking about for sex magic, it is the highest form, which is anal sex, which is a very powerful thing that they use to manipulate reality. Okay, this is what is in the book I quoted to you. Alright, so now you can see that they are into those things, and we are going into the next level, because I told you before, they taught it to Europeans, and it's all over the Freemasons, Illuminati, and all those Temples Orientals. This is what they do, okay, according to what I just quoted. Now, this is what they do, okay? Now, let us go on and let us see what happens when they are doing it, okay? Like I told you, what happens when they are doing it. I'm going to give you an explanation, once from a website from those that practice it, and then I'm going to give you a more explanation from another perspective, the way I would see that they're practicing it, what happens in them, okay? This is now from another website called biologyofkundalini.com, the Kundalini gland, from the Tantric master Adorata. This is also known now. The word Kundalini comes from the word Kunta gland, the Kunta glands. That's what they call the Kunta glands, which is by the anus. Okay, it's called the Kunta gland. Okay, so this is what they say, what they are doing. All right, the Kundalini gland. That's what they explain what happens. The Muhudara chakra of the base spine is where the Kundalini is supposed to lie, called awaiting to rise. Several translate the ancient to the symbolic idea of the coiled serpent. First, when the Kundalini does rise, one of the initial paths it takes seems to be around the spine, between the two sympathetic trunks. The discharge of the double helix of the energy can be felt raising around the spine. Some people, such as Gopi Krishna, call it the zigzag, for it appears that energy is flowing backwards and forwards up the ladder of the spine from the ganglia to ganglia. I experienced, according to the guy, he says, I experienced this during a hypnotic vision around the time of the 1988 awakening. He said, I imagine that energy is transmitted in a double helix fashion at the beginning of an awakening prior to the inner conjunction through the Sushumna Nadi or the central channel of the spine. Continue, it says this. Although the tradition are focused on it, there is an obvious or no such thing as ejaculation up the spine, but the nerve energy in the Fahad sends the flow of its power back to the nerves to the spine. This is done through an inner kinesthetic sensing directing the eye of the mind and breathing. This redirection of the nerve flow might help the users prevent ejaculation while still having orgasm. It might feel as though there is ejaculation up in the spine because of the Kundalini gland, also called the coccygeal body of the base of the coccyx is composed of smooth muscles and can pulsate like an ejaculation. This to the man, it might appear that the ejaculation up his spine. I have noticed, according to him, he said, I have noticed the sense of throbbing, pumping sensation of the coccyx that occurs at the start of the increase of the Kundalini flow. The coccygeal body is an irregular oval-shaped gland between the rectal wall and the tip of the tailbone of the coccyx. This is known in Tantra as Kundalini gland. They also call it the Kunta gland, like I said. During the active Kundalini, one can often feel the pulsation in the sacrum. He said, I suspect that this rhythmatic movement might be the Kundalini gland becoming active. He continues, the coccygeal gland is fed by a sympathetic adrenergic form that feeds the two ganglion, and by the parasympathetic, called the cholinergic nerves. By the median simple artery, the vein, is directly influencing the nervous system via chemical messages arising from the blood. It is several millimeters in diameter and is composed of epithelial cells, a smooth muscle cell. A study shows that its possible blood-forming function and immune modulatory activity by regulation of the sympathetic nervous system through the neuroadrenergic control. The removal of this gland creates a nervous derangement. Nexus of all the various body-mind system, hormonal, blood and sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves, and the immune system, and the Kunta gland or the Kundalini gland is the key to the homeostasis of the body and shortening the metabolism over the metamorphic state. Further study could lead to science to discover that the Kundalini awakening could be initiated or maintained by stimulation of the coccygeal body or subsequent increase in the neuroadrenergic mechanism of the SNS. A further studies confirmed the possible involvement of the coccygeal body in the regulation of sexuality. This may explain the immunosuppressive starches released to the sexual repression as the previous suggested by Wilhelm Reich. Yoga has devised widely variety of techniques to irritate and awaken the gland into activity, including the Mula Munda, the rock leg contraction premium of the lower abdomen, Aswini Mudra, contraction of the pubocegeus muscle of premium as a Kegel exercise, the Tada Mudra, knocking the buttocks upon the ground, sending rhythmic shock waves ripping up the spine and rolling a cotton ball placed under the tip of the tailbone, for an X-ray translated by Dr. John Mumford. A study of the identifies the traditional idea of ejaculation of sexual juice up the spine. However, the nitric oxide and the neurotransmitters that are used in sex will be directly involved in the inner conjunction event. In fact, the sex chemical involved in the inner conjunction is many times greater than which facilitates sex itself. Through the entire body is flooded with sex and growth hormones during the peak in which the spinal inner conjunction occur and serves the rev up metabolism in which the energy and can be built. This intense phase locked situation. According to what the man says, I still cannot see how sexual juice can enter the cerebral fluid. Instead, I see a spinal fluid becoming supercharged with glutamate and calcium dioxide. And the along the nitric oxide, driving the maximum nerve activity. The fluid, superfluid, and the supercharged does not necessarily shoot up in the spine, even though it feels like a force of 10,000 orgasm blasting directly up to my spine. However, the liquid probably does flow in the later faster during the inner conjunction event due to the increase of electromagnetic field. The increased ciliary movement of this tissue and moves the cerebrospinal fluid, along which is excited by the extra nutrition of ions of the fluid of the nerve energy of that time. Hence, the intense upward pressure of the inner conjunction is not caused by any fast-moving induction of the liquid within the spine, such as by increased energy in the nerves, for the CSF is moved by a hydrostatic pressure of ciliary reported to take 24 hours for the full cycle, and is completely changed every 6 to 7 hours. Thus, I see the amnesic ejaculation of the fluid down the back of the throat, or more of the brain ejaculation, a mirror-to-heart connection, rather than the fluid that comes directly from the sex organ. The ancients seem to be obsessed with thinking that the kundalini originates in the base of the spine. Yet the awakening is one of the entire body down to the subatomic, to the change of the energy generation system, which may indeed tap the 0-point energy. Because the male religious like to put things in hierarchy with the start and to finish, the step levels and a nice progression of consciousness up to the spine. In the quantum age, the linear model can be only the abstraction of the teaching of the beginner students, that like to the thing, they were the specific ladder of ascent which they only have to go from point A to point Z, and they will be enlightened. And they will be enlightened. That means if they go from point A to point Z, they will be enlightened. The Kundalini gland does prostrate, which may have led to ancient suspect and origin of the point of the bottom of the spine. But remember, activity anywhere in the body is correlation in the brain. The energies of the entire body EMF go into symptoms in one area. Okay. They said the carotid glands. This is now again, it says that U.G. Krishnamurti talks about the cobra effect of the necks puffing out during acute prana flow, hence the ancient Egyptian symbol. The carotid gland are reddish brown over body in the top of the neck, just below the ears. It is similar to the structure of the Kundalini gland, called the oxygeal gland. It is known that the oxygen and carbon concentration represents the main stimulus of the carotid body. Carbon monoxide as the gaseous neurotransmitter also appears to be involved in the regulation of the chemosenors of a parotid body, which are regulated by molecular oxygen inhabited by carbon monoxide. The procedure on the carotid gland seems to be an act of neutralizing a systemic poison. The carotid gland cells produce dopamine. This insignificant is to be understood for their functions. And he says this: I do not want to be an examiner, but you are doctors. This is something to do the this is something to the symbol they have in India, the cobra. Yesterday was a new moon. The body is affected by everything that is happening around you. It is not separate from what is happening around you. Whatever is happening there is also happening here. This is only a physical response. This affection. You can't prevent this from the simple reason that the armor you have built around yourself is destroyed in the alchemy. So it's very vulnerable to everything that is happening there. With the phase of the moon, the full moon, the half moon, the quarter moon, those swelling be there take the shape of a cobra. So that those swelling here take the shape of a cobra. Maybe the reason why some people have created all this image of Shiva and all this kind of things. But why should it take the shape of a cobra? I asked many doctors why the swelling is here, but nobody could give me the satisfactory answer. I don't know if there are any glands of anything here. P.31 UJ Krishnamurti, the mystic of enlightenment. So, you know, they are talking about Kundalini, okay, right? That happens through anal sex in the spine. That's what they're talking about. Okay? This is what they're talking about, which is in the anus. Okay? It's the anal anal set, which is a chakra that they are coming into, called the Kundalini gland, called the Kundalini gland or Kunta glands. Now we are going to read the story of Genesis chapter 19, which talks about Sodom and Gomorrah. And before we go into the story, I want you to understand what is the sin of Sodom. The sin of Sodom, okay, in Hebrew is Saddam. Okay, so when you hear the word Sodom, the Hebrew word is Saddam. So what does Saddam mean? Before we go into go there, we are going into the etymology of Sodom. Okay, we're going to the etymology of Sodom. According to Etymology Dictionary, the word Sodom means anal sex. The word Sodom means anal sex. Okay. So how do I know? Well, it says sodomite, laid from one who practiced sodomy, also related to biblical Sodom, from old friend sodomite, inhabitant of Sodom, sodomite, also genital abuse of directly from the late Latin sodomite, from the Greek sodomite, the inhabitant of Sodom, sodomy, Sodom. Okay, let's go to word sodomy. Circa 1300, sodomy, unnatural sexual insult in this custom imputed by inhabitant of the biblical Sodom, actually between man, but also with beasts, from the old French Sodom. Compared to Latin, the word is peccatum sodomiticum. The late Latin word is peccatum sodomiticum, anal sex. Literally, the sin of Sodom, from Latin Sodoma. In Middle English as suni sodomike. So the word Sodom is from the Latin peccatum sodomiticum, which means anal sex. So Sodom means anal sex. So we're gonna break down the word, you know, the word anal sex means. Okay. All right. What does the word anal sex mean in Hebrew, and how is it to be defined? Let's go. Now, in the Hebrew, the word Sodom is pronounced, like I said, Saddam. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? The word is Saddam. Okay? The word Sodom means Saddam. So what does Saddam mean? Let us go. You have to understand the word Sa in Hebrew means to settle. And the word Dam means the gate of the flow or of the fluid. Okay? So it's the settlement of the gate of the fluid. Alright? The settlement of the gate of the fluid. What is settling in the gate of the fluid? Things where things come out. Well, in the Hebrew, that letter is referring to the anus, the stomach, where the acid is. Okay? And that acid is the fluid, okay? And the gate is the hole, da. On the sa is that what settles in there, okay? It settles it, okay? Which is literally talking about the stomach area, okay, where things are. So the sin of Sodom is so-called the stomach area where the anus is coming out, which is the fluid, the gate to the fluid, with the acid gate. And so the sin of Sodom is settling inside, something inside the stomach, which is the seat that they were doing. That means going into the anus, in the area that you're not supposed to go in sexuality. Okay? That is what the word Sodom means. Okay? So, let us break it down. The circle is the anus, and the great goes to the upper body of the womb, not the vagina of the woman, and the upper body of the womb of a man and a woman. That is what the Ankh also represents, okay? That circle. So that circle is the anus. That's the Venus symbol, the Aphrodite, the symbol of Sodom, of Ankh, okay? Which represents the anus, okay? So it's the upper body womb, not the vagina of a woman, but the upper body womb of a man and a woman. In the ancient Hebrew, there is a womb that is between the head and the stomach, okay? This is a spiritual place, okay? And what they are doing is they are going to the anus to command the snake to enter the upper womb of the body. Okay? This is the place known as the Odu Gate. It's called the Dumai, but the anus is called Du1. Du1. They call it in Chinese Du1, which is a meeting point of directing the governing vessel. This regulates both the extra-dentary vessel and removes the obstructions, the governing vessel. It has a substantial influence over the mind, the Shen, as it passes in the kidney essence in the form of a marrow to the brain. As the starting point of the vessel, Du1, okay, can be stimulated to influence the brain and the other end of the vessel. This opens the mind and offers and calms the mind location, midway between the tip of the coccyx and the anus. Okay? So again, you see it's the anus, which is the gate that they are doing to go into the upper room, the upper gate, the upper room, okay, that they are doing, which is an illegal gate. Although their pressure point, they won't exist inside. Okay? Now how to locate it says from the tip of the orchix, the palpate with the pressure towards the anus. The D1 is located in the midpoint. So the Hebrew upside down means settling into the gate where is water, really. Okay? This is when your fathers enter the anus, which is part of your belly. The shit is rubbed and pushed through the pressure of and semen. The Kundalini snake and spirit appears because a reverse energy pathway. Normally things go natural from up until down. So, because the reversal is a spiritual magnetic constitution, you invade the python of the spirit. So normally it goes from up to down your energy, but by reversing it from down to up, it means the python spirit is coming. So in the lower end, you just see the energetic reaction if you use technology to track it. In the lower end, the cobra spirit going up. The python spirit enters the spinal cord and possesses the back and the mind of the body because the natural spiritual wind has been taken away. The snake becomes your third eye. That is why Pharaoh has the snake crown. You start to see through the snake eyes. You can now connect, and you have now connected, and you are online with the Satanic Empire. It can evolve to miracle powers. It can create life and miracle. This is why Communist was invented by the Egyptian ritual for initiation the next Pharaoh. When Tutankhamun's tomb was first discovered in 1922, the Admiral Howard Carter was stunned by the astonishing array of grey goods. More than 5,000 artifacts were left for the boy king to use in his afterlife. But among all, gold, silver, and ebony and iron, precious jewelry, weapons, furniture, fine linen, and rare perfumes. A small piece of cloth caught the eyes of the expert. This was King Tut's condole. Apparently it was deemed essential for him to take it into eternity. This is from www.cloudmariottini.com/2022/07/12/ the use of the condom in the ancient Egypt / Why did they use condom? It was to protect them from diseases but allow the male semen to cream the anus. Okay? That's why they do male on male anal sex or male and female anal sex. Okay? This is what the Freemasons use, and it's also called the Rothschild position, a nickname for it, okay, in the secret society. Well, that is the Ankh symbol, means the key of life, like I explained. Okay, it was also connected with the 9, representing eternal life, which is the lion, which was a snake-type deity, a centipede deity. Okay, so the Ankh is the life of the pythons, are also known as Kundalini, that generate light. So that is what you need to understand. That's how the whole thing works, what they're doing. This, in other words, I'm giving it to you, okay? Now, we are going to the next one in Genesis chapter 19, where we break down Sodom, okay? The story of Sodom. Now, you know what the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah is, okay? It was homosexuality, okay? Between man and man, and man and woman, and man and beast. When they did with man and beast, it was anal sex. When they did with man and woman, it was anal sex. If it was man and man, it was anal sex. So anal sex was always the concept of their sexual relation. So let's read Genesis chapter 19. It says, "And it came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and bowed himself with the face toward the ground, and said, Behold, now my lords, turn on, I pray you, into your servant's house. Tarry all night, wash your feet, and you shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but ye will be able in the street all night." Verse 3. "And he passed upon from it greatly, and they turned into and unto him, and entered into a house, and made them feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old, young, and all the people from every quarter. And all they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee in the night? And them out of unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out of the door to them, and shut the door after him. And he said, I pray you, but do not do so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters, which have not known man. Let me pray, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do yet to them as good as your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing. For therefore come they under the shadow of my roof. And he said, Stand back, and say again, This one fellow came down in sojourn, and we will need to be judged. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they passed so upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the man put forth the hand, and put Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And he smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so they wearied themselves to find the door. And the man said unto Lot, Hold thou here art beside, son-in-law, and thy son and thy daughters, whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of the place. For we will destroy the place, because the cry of them is waxing great. Therefore the face of the Most High, and the Most High has sent us to destroy it. Okay, so you can see in an attempt of raping and abuse also, because they are doing anal sex, they are doing anal raping, you know, they just want to sleep anally, that's what they want to do. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughter, and said, Get you out of the place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But it seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning rose, the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take my wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou consume iniquity of the city. And while it lingered, the man laid hold upon the hand, and upon the hand of the wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters. And the Lord, being merciful unto him, they brought him forth and sent him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought forth abroad, that they said, Escape from the life, and look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot Lot said unto him, Oh, not so, my lord. Behold, now the servant hath found grace in the sight. Thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in the saving of my life. I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. And behold, now the city near to thee flee unto, and is the little one. Oh, let me escape hither. It is not the little one, and my soul shall live. Verse 21. And he said unto them, or he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city for thee which thou hast spoken. Hasten to escape hasten to escape faster, for I cannot do anything till thou hast come faster. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. And the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstones and fire from the Lord out of heaven. We repeat. And the Most High Yah rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Most High Yah out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked, and backed from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Creator. And he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and behold, and lo, and smoke of the country went up as the smoke of the furnace. And it came to pass, when the Creator destroyed the city of the plain, the Creator remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, and the overthrow the city in the which Lot dwelt. Repeat again. And he sent out Lot in the midst and overthrow the city in which Lot dwelt. So this is the story. So it was destroyed by brimstones and fire. Here are some evidence, or archaeological evidence, to prove it. That because of the homosexual anal sex they were doing, they were destroyed with brimstone and fire. Fire was raining from heaven and destroyed inside them, burned them, and killed all of them. Okay, because of anal sex. Because these people were so wicked, they were into anal sex. They were into even forcing and raping people into anal sex and stuff like that.
This is believed to be the actual remains of Lot's wife. Discovered near the Dead Sea, close to where Sodom and Gomorrah are thought to have been located, there is an unusual pillar that some claim is Lot's wife. Archaeologists have studied its strange shape and found that it is composed of 80% salt. What makes this discovery so intriguing is that the Bible says God turned Lot's wife into a pillar of salt when she looked back at the burning cities. While it has not yet been confirmed whether she is encased within the salt, the site provides compelling evidence. This includes millions of pure sulfur balls, mountains of ash covering ancient buildings, and clear burn marks found throughout the area. The site also aligns perfectly with the biblical timeline and location described in Genesis, including Lot's cave, where he hid during Sodom's destruction. This cave is located near the ruins of the cities and matches the geographical details provided in the biblical account. Local legend and archaeology also support the claim, with early Christians building a church around it as a sign of reverence, further adding credibility to the discovery.
Divine justice scorched 2 cities into oblivion, and science just proved it happened. The Dead Sea holds secrets of Sodom and Gomorrah. Entire cities turned to ash and salt, exactly where ancient texts said they'd be. Multiple archaeological digs found evidence of intense heat that instantly crystallized clay pottery and melted stone. The temperature needed? Over 2,000 degrees Celsius. Regular fires can't do that. We found buildings facing upward, like they were struck from above. Even crazier, unique white sulfur balls scattered everywhere, burning hotter than any natural sulfur on Earth. This wasn't just destruction, it was supernatural obliteration.
Which is the meaning Satan energy into the people, which is the practice of Venus, Lucifer, Aphrodite, and both man, woman, and beast. That they practice, as Allah said, to invoke the satanic spirit in them. And they even rape people, they force people, so that they can have the cobra, the python spirit, the kundalini spirit in them. Now, this priesthood was infiltrated by the Edomites. Okay? The Edomites infiltrated the Israelites, and those Edomites, they were into the Egyptian teachings, okay, and the Canaanite teachings, okay, because Esau married a Canaanite and he married an Ishmaelite woman. So the Ishmaelite woman that was there, remember, her mother would have been an Egyptian, okay. So this is what happened to back then. So they developed themselves in a very bad way, and they are known to become those empires, with the work with the Roman and the Greek empires and stuff like that, where they have infiltrated the priesthood to the time of Christ, and they have those snake in them, okay, those priesthoods, and you have to understand the two snakes represents that produces eggs. So when the kundalini arises, there can be two snakes can come, the male and the female snake. That male and female snake produces egg, spiritual egg, so that by laying the hands or by touching the people, they can transfer the egg into the mind of the body, and the body becomes a host, becomes a place where they can grow, and then within that growth, there grows another thing, okay? But then within that person will grow that entity out, because it becomes the point where the two snakes mix and make eggs in the body. So most snakes are produced, okay? This is known as names, and they can prophesy and they can see things. We're gonna prove it to you. They are also now with this Bible verse. Let's go to Luke chapter 3 verse 7. This is now where John the Baptist speaks. It says, John said to the crowd coming out to be baptized by him, "You brood of vipers, who wants you to flee from the coming wrath?" He said what? Brood of vipers. Another verse is Matthew chapter 3 verse 7. And when they were baptized of him, confessing their sins, but when he saw many of the Pharisees and the Sadducees coming to his baptism, he said unto them, "O generations of vipers, who has warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Bring forth therefore the fruit to meet for repentance." Okay? So again, this priesthood of Pharisees and Sadducees were induced with this, I'm going to call that spirit, and they had also the vulture spirit, because remember, they killed John the Baptist's father on the altar. Okay, they were very bad before the altar. Okay, so they are having the python, the snake spirit in them. Matthew chapter 12 24 to 35, even Jesus speaks. "O generations of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of thy heart thy mouth speaketh. A good man out of his good treasure of his heart bringeth forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasures bringeth forth evil things." So you see, there's nothing good coming out of them. These are the brood of vipers again. Generations of vipers. Okay? What is the brood of vipers? What is the brood? What does that word brood mean? Okay, that word brood means something like generating snakes, or brood means like producing snake eggs, which is a generation or generating or producing, okay, of snakes. And in fact, Christ will call them the children of the devil, which is another story, another time. Okay, which we're going to explain to you why exactly they are the children of Shaitan. How is that possible? You know, like I told you, Edomites infiltrated them. So this is what they are, which have the python spirit, the cobra spirit, the snake spirit, okay, the serpent spirit in their spine going up the head, the Kundalini spirit, which is this Ankh, Venus symbol, Lucifer, Satan symbol. That was the magical planet. They brought Egyptian magic into the society of the ancient Hebrews, okay, and defiled the things of the Most High. They brought the Sodom and Gomorrah practice inside the temple and defied the Most High. You hear what I said? This is what they do, and that was the mystery system that the Christians are using, because them too are of the Edomite stock, okay, which was part of the enemies, okay, that went, which is another time, another story. Gonna have to explain that too, you know. So everything detailed, the genealogy and everything is there. So they were into those things, and that's why they were so evil towards humanity and do all kinds of evil. Although they claim to be Christians, they were evil, okay. So, and that is also what we have to understand, okay, that this practice turns one to be evil. And this is the practice of, like I told you, the Freemason, according to Aleister Crowley, according to the book we read. This is the practice they do, and that practice goes long back in the book of Adam and Eve, talking about it. We're going to talk about it, okay, that story now, what happened, okay. But before we're going to go there, alright, let us look this last verse now in the New Testament. Very important, okay, very important. Let us go there. The last verse in the New Testament, alright, okay. This is in the book called Acts of Apostle. If you're there, Acts of Apostle, Acts of Apostle, chapter 16, verse 16 to 18. So this talks about apostle, when there was a woman, okay, that was possessed with the spirit of divination, they say, okay, or oracle. But actually, it's not divination, or in that sense. We're not the proper translation. The translation should be another word, but we're gonna give the real one, okay? Acts of Apostles 16, verse 16 to 18. And it came to pass, as they went for the prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of Python, okay, spirit of Python, alright, or which is translated as divination, met us and brought her master much to gain by soothsaying. The same following, Paul and us cried, saying, These men are servants of the Most High, which should show unto us the way of salvation. And it did as many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ, come out of her. And it came out of her the same hour. So let's read again. So in our translation today, we will say, and it came to pass, as we went for prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination met us, which brought her master much gain by soothsaying. Then the same follow Paul and us cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High, Creator, which show us unto us thy way of salvation. Now, that's what the translation says, okay? But in the Greek says, when you look at the Greek I'm giving to you now, and it came to pass, when we went for prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of Python met us, which brought her master much gain by soothsaying. The same followed by Paul and all that cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High, which show unto us the way of salvation. And they did they did as many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to to come out of her, and it came out of her the same hour. So you see, so divination, when it's supposed to be translated as python, because the python is what tells you. A python that he's talking about is someone that sees visions, dreams, hear things. Okay, it's a python spirit. There's a python spirit which comes through anal sex or a satanic hand laying hand on them. It's called the python spirit. Okay, and that is the Kundalini spirit. That is the Kundalini spirit that is taught by laying a hand after one of the initiated has anal sex and has awoken the Kundalini, which you can lay hands and the person will have eggs, okay, male and female if they have them, and then lay hands and then reproduce. Okay, that's what they do, and they can do it from generation to generation, putting eggs in the people, spiritual eggs, which are the snake, male and female snake. If they have those snakes, they can transfer that satanic anointing or satanic power, okay, or a spiritual energy from person to person, from generation to generation. And the problem is that is what happens. And they can see visions and dreams and stuff like that. Okay, or sometimes they can transfer snakes directly into the body of another person. Also, okay, well, this is what they are doing. Okay, and this is known as the python spirit. Now, where does that come from? When I go back to the Ankh, we're just talking about the Ankh, okay? Because the person was prophesying, and they were true was a man of the Creator. But guess what? They can see the truth. They can do miracles and healings and all those things, okay? Because there is a source of the power. Because the Egyptian has that power, and the Most High has that power. You understand? There are two types of power operations. Now we're going to give another example of this power of the Egyptian ground-based, the gods and the deities. You know, I told you what I've shown you. Let's go to Exodus chapter 7. Okay, let us read from verse 8. And the Most High spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, When Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, Show a miracle for you, that you shall say unto Aaron, Take thy rod, and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so. And the Most High commanded, and Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, and before his servant, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise man and the sorcerer, now the magicians of the Egypt. They also did in the like manner with the enchantments, and they cast down every man his rod, and they became a serpent, but Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. And you see now the level? So you see that Moses swallowed the rod and it's turned to serpent, and Pharaoh and his magicians enchantment do the same thing and return to serpent. But the rod, the snake of the Most High, that was translated, okay, that the Most High created the snake, eat the snake of the Egyptian. Now the reason I come down to this story is the rod does not mean snake. In fact, the Hebrew word that was used in there is dinosaur, Leviathan. Another topic, another time. The word in that scripture that they used was Leviathan, which I'm gonna show you. Okay, it's not Hebrew word Nahash, which is snake. But anyways, fact is that they are able to turn the rod into an animal. Let's use the example of snake. The rod of Moses is not to do with snake power, or it's just authority. Okay, that's all. It has nothing to do with snake power and what some people want to say. No. It just has the authority to transform into anything. If it wanted to, it could have transformed into a tiger or a lion. It could have transformed into a bird. If it wanted, it could transform into anything it desires. Okay? In that case, it is transformed into a dinosaur originally. Okay? Which could have been any type of dinosaur. It didn't say what type of dinosaur it was. There are different types of dinosaurs, okay, which is the word Leviathan, which is also the word we translate for dragon. There are different types of dragons. Dragon is dinosaurs, okay, in the ancient times, okay. So that one swallowed it. So the snake that was changed, okay, had organs. You understand? If you change a material to snake, it has organ like a human being, hair, brain, liver, kidney, moose, and moose. And the Egyptians are able to do the same thing, create out of a rod an animal, okay, that has organs, is alive, that speaks, and everything, right? Let me ask you something. The one that can create can also heal. That means the Egyptian could also heal too. It could also create kidneys, human kidneys, and if they use it from other things to produce, right? And the Most High also, okay? That is called metamorphing energies, okay? They could do it too. But you understand, the source of the energy was the Ankh that produced that become life, which became the rod. The source of Moses was the creator. A different science altogether. So you can see that the deities of Egypt are based on a so-called Ankh symbol, which is a homosexual Kundalini energy system. The deities are homosexuals, okay? Which you can see the difference between this one and this one, okay? See, you see the differences. But you see that the one that Moses had swallowed them up. He swallowed them up. Meaning that the power of the Creator is bigger than their own. Okay? And then we're going to prove to you that a lot of them try to infiltrate African societies. Those Egyptologists and all those things try to infiltrate African society to bring the spirit of Ankh, the spirit of Kundalini, the spirit of Python into some African societies like the Yorubas. And they try to claim that the Egyptian gods are the Yoruba gods. But how can it be? Because, first of all, they don't even know that, because they never will hear that, okay? Stuff like that, they don't practice it. It's not even heard of anal sex in Yoruba land, okay? That's number one. And number two is, there are certain verses which do indicate, but they indicate talks about homosexuality in a negative format. Okay, this is in a traditional Yoruba belief, which says Ifa forbids homosexuality. Although it's not popular, people don't know about it. They will tell you it's not good, traditional and stuff like that. But you know, those people in the Westerners want to say that the traditional Yoruba belief and the Yoruba marriage system had involved homosexuality, that men had sex with men and that they had anal sex and stuff like that with their own wife. They don't even do it with their own wife. Okay? We're going to read it to you here. And now they're trying to claim that the Yoruba ancestors are the Egyptians, that the Orishas are the Egyptian gods. But how can it be possible when the Egyptian gods were involved in homosexuality? That was the base power. That's what they were created with of Shaitan. Okay? That's what they're trying to prove. So we're going to give you the Ifa that forbids homosexuality. It says, the scripture of Odu are from the Ifa, the manifestation of the Most High's wisdom and teaching, personified, and recorded in the Yoruba Nigeria, passed on to mankind. Okay? So it says this. Let me read this. It says this. It is from the Odu, okay, of the creator, called Irete Iwori. It says this. We eat yam with the right oil. We use the right oil to eat yam. It is very sweet and enjoyable to make love with a woman than a man. If you make love with a man, bumps and boils and mucus and other diseases develop. If you make love to a woman, it is pleasing, sweet, enjoyable. This was Ifa, okay, Ifa prophecy from Orimala, or Ifa divination for Orimala, when he was going to rescue Akala, the child from Osa. Okay. Another one is showing you that very clearly that homosexuality is not part of it. It causes what? Ifa says that it causes what? What kind of disease? Bombs, birds, mucus, and other disease to develop. So what do we read today? The Egyptians invented condom. Why? Because they had on their penises bombs, birds, mucus, and other disease develop. All kinds of sicknesses develop. So they invented the condom to protect themselves in anal sex from those diseases. So they can initiate and do the anal sex ritual. So in other words, if it's forbids in homosexuality in Ifa has nothing to do with Egypt. Okay? Another one it says here, that's from Iwori Obara. It says, you make love while standing, you make love while bending. This is what the Ifa definition for Iwori, who always make love to his wife standing. Iwori kindly make love while lying down. It is wrong to make love while standing. They say this is a subtle reference to men being with other men, or I would even interpret that one as anal sex. Iwori kindly make love properly. So he said to do it in a proper way, right? So now this leads to the story of Adam and Eve, a similar story talking about it. Okay? In the book of Adam and Eve, all right, which is the second book of Adam and Eve. It's about the conflict between Adam and Eve and Satan. Satan is known to camouflage himself and does all that kinds of things many times. And now we're talking about the children of Adam. Jared, who was one of the children of Adam, and this is what it says in chapter XVII. It says, Jared turns Martinet and he has headed away to the land of Cain, where he see many voluptuous sights. Jared barely escapes with a clean heart. Okay, this is the story. Then Jerry kept his father's commandment. Then Jerry kept his father's commandment and arose like a lion over his people. He fed them righteously and in innocence and commanded them to do nothing without his counsel. For he was afraid concerning them, lest they should go to the children of Cain. Wherefore did he give him orders repeatedly and continued to do until the end of the 485th year of his life. And the end of this said, and the end of these said years, there came to him this sign. And Jared was standing like a lion before the bodies of his father, praying and warning his people. Satan envied him and wrought a beautiful apparition, because Jared would not let his children to do aught without his counsel. Satan or Shaitan then appeared to him with 30 men of his host in the form of a handsome man, and Shaitan himself being the elder and the tallest among them, with a fine beard. They stood at the mouth of the cave and called out Jared from within it. And it came to pass, and he found them looking like fine men. Okay? And it came to pass, and found them looking like fine men, full of light and great beauty. He wondered at their beauty and at their looks, and brought within himself whether they might not be the children of Cain. And he said also in his heart, as the children of Cain cannot come up to the height of the mountains, none of them is so handsome as these people to be. And among these men there's none that was kinder kingdom there must be strangers. Then Jared and they exchanged greeting and said to the elder among them, "Oh, my father explains to me the wonder that is in thee, to tell me who these are with thee, for they look to me like strange men." Then the elder began to weep, and the rest wept with him, and said to Jared, "I am Adam whom God made first, and this is Abel my son, who was killed by his brother Cain, in whose heart Satan put to murder him. Then this is my son Seth, whom I asked of the Lord, who gave him to me to comfort me instead of Abel. And this is my son Enos, the son of Seth, and this is the other one is Cainan, son of Enos, and the other one is Mahalalel, son of Cainan, my father." But Jared remained wondering at the appearance and the speech of the elders to him. Then the elder said to him, "Marvel not, O my son, we live in the land of the north of the garden which the Creator created before thee, before the world." So he said, then he said to the elder, and then the elder said unto him, "Marvel not, O my son, we live in the land of the north of the garden which the Almighty Creator created before thee, before the world was created." Okay? "He will not let us live there, but place us inside the garden below, which are now dwelling. But after that I transgressed and made me come out of it, and I left to dwell in the cave. Great and sore troubles came upon me, and when my death drew near, I commanded my son Seth to send his people well. And this is my commandment: it is to be handed from one to another unto the end of the generation to come." So, "But O Jared, my son, we live in a beautiful region, while you live there in misery. As this my father Mahalalel informed me, telling me that the great flood would come and overwhelm the whole earth." And he says, "Therefore, my son, fearing for your sake, I rose and took my children with me, and came hither for us to visit thee in thy children. But I found thee standing in the cave weeping, and the children scattered about the mountain in the heat, in the misery. But my son, we have missed our way and came far as this, and we found other men below the mountains, who inhabit beautiful country, full of trees and fruits, and all manner of vendor. It's like a garden, so that we found them and brought they were you, until the father Mahana told me that they were not such thing. Now therefore, my son, hearken to my counsel, and go down to him and the children. Ye will rest from all the suffering in which ye are. But if thou wilt not go down to them, then arise and take thy children, and come with us to the garden, and ye shall live in our beautiful land, and ye shall rest from all the troubles which thou and thy children are now bearing." But Jared, when he heard this discussion from the elder, wondered and went hither and hither, but at the moment he found none of his children. Then he answered and said unto the elder, "Why have you hidden yourself unto this day?" And the elder replied, "If thy father had not told us, we should not have known it." Then Jared believed his word, and they were true. So the elder said to Jared, "Wherefore did thou not turn about so and so?" And he said, "I was seeking one of my children to tell him about my going with you, and about the coming down to those whom thou hast spoken to me." And when the elder heard Jared's intention, he said to him, "Let alone thy purpose and person are present, and come with us, thou shalt see our country, if the land is which will dwell please thee. We and thou shall return hither, and take thy family with us. But if your country does not please thee, thou shalt come back to thy own place." And the elder urged Jared to go, therefore, one of his children, and come to the council. And the elder urged Jared to go before of his children to come to counsel him otherwise. And Jared then came out of the cave, and came with him among them, and they confronted him until they came to the top of the mountain of the sons of Cain. Then they said to the elder, to one of the company, "We have forgotten something by the mouth of the cave, and that is the chosen garment we had brought to clothe Jared withal." And they said to them, "Go back, that thou someone will wait for thee until thou come back. Then will we clothe Jared, and he shall be like us, good, handsome, fit to come with us into our country. Then the one went back, but when he was short the distance off, the elder called to him and said to him, Tarry thou until I come up and speak to thee. Then he stood still, and the elder went up to him and said to him, One thing we forget at the cave, it is this, to put out the lamp that burnt inside it, above the bodies that are therein. Then come back to us quick. Then one went, and the elder came back to the fellows of Jared, and they came down from the mountains, and Jared with them, and they stayed by the fountain of water, where the house of the children of Cain waited for their companion until he brought the garment for Jared. He then went back to the cave, but out of the lamp came to them and brought a phantom with him, and showed it them. And when Jared saw it, wounded at the beauty of the grace thereof, and they rejoiced in his heart, believing it was true, all true. But while they were staying there of them went in the house of the sons of Cain and said to them, Bring us today some food by the fountain of water for us and the companions to eat. But when the sons of Cain saw them, they wondered at them and brought, These are the beautiful to look, as such as whatsoever before. So they rose and came with them to the fountain of water to see the companions. And they found them there very handsome, and they cried aloud about the place for others to gather together and come and look at the beautiful beings. And they gathered around them, both men and women. And the elder said to them, We are strangers in our land. Bring us some good food and drinks, you and your woman, to refresh ourselves with you. When those men heard these words of the elders, everyone came. The son brought his wife, another brought his daughter, and so many women came to them, everyone addressing Jared either of him for his wife, all alike. But when Jared saw what they did, his soul wretched itself from and neither would be taste of their food, of their drink. Verse 40. The elder saw him and wrenched himself from them and said to them, Be not so sad, I am a great elder, as thou shalt see me do thyself in the like manner. The elder saw him as he wrenched himself from them and said to them, Be not sad, I am the great elder, as thou shalt see me to do thyself in the like manner. Then they spread their hands and took over one of the women. 5 of the commons did the same before Jared, and he should do as they did. Repeat again. Then spread their hands and took one of the women, and the 5 of the companions did the same before Jared, that they should do as they did. But when Jared saw them working infamy, he wept and said unto him, My fathers never did like this. My father never did like that. Okay? Well, my father never did the like. Okay? And he spread out his hand and prayed with a fervent heart, with much weeping, and entered to the Most High to deliver him from their hands. Okay? And so no sooner did Jared began to pray with him, the elder fled in his companion, for they could not abide in the place of prayer. Then Jared turned, but could not see them, but found himself standing in the midst of the children of Cain. And he wept and said, God, destroy me not with the race concerning which my fathers have warned me. For now, O my Lord, I was thinking that thou hast appeared unto me with my fathers, but I have found them out to be the devils, who allured me with beautiful apparition until I believed them. But now ask the Most High to deliver me from the race among whom I am now, saying, Thou hast delivered me from the devils. Send the angel to draw me out of the midst of them, for I have not in myself power to escape from among them. And when Jared had ended his prayer, the Most Most High sent his angel in the midst of them, and took Jared and sent him upon the mountain, and showed him the way, and gave him counsel, and he departed from him. So what you're seeing now is that they're going to go. He discovered that when he was taken from people that were thought to be people, this was actually Satan and his angels. And Satan and his angels took Jared. Okay? They tricked Jared to come over to his place. Okay? And Satan and his angels did a practice with women. Okay? Appearing as human beings. So one aspect of Satan's angels were man, the other aspect of Satan's angels were woman. So Satan's angel man, and Satan's angel appears as woman. So Satan appears as man and as woman in that story. So so Satan and his angels shapeshift into man and woman, and okay, not knowing that, and they showed him Jared, okay, because they were very beautiful, and Satan was the first transgender, okay, he was the first transgender, okay, because he could shapeshift, he was magical. The angels were transgenders, okay, one plays the male, one plays the female role, and then you see, guys, that they told him what? To spread the hands, okay, and then he said, then an elder, which was Satan, said, do as I do, copy me. So Satan had sex with angels, with other angels. So the angels, Satan as an angel, and the other angels had sex. So one angel between man and one angel between woman, okay, and they had sex. So where did they have sex? Okay, what did they try to show them to have sex? It's very soon again. Verse 40 says, the elder saw him as he raised himself from them, and said to them, be not said, I am a great elder, as thou shalt see me do thyself in a like manner. Then he spread his hand and took one of the women's. Okay, so he took one of the women's. So he spread his hand and took one of the women's. So when Satan took, he was a man, another woman was a satanic angel. One of his angels transformed to a woman. So he played the man, the other played the woman, okay? And the 5 of his companions did the same before Jared. So the other 5 did the same things. So there were 5 men, okay, which are satanic angels, taking 5 satanic female angels, okay? Okay, and then let's continue. It says, and then he said to Jared to do the same thing to what their women are doing. Listen, but when Jared saw them walking in family, he wept and said in his mind, my fathers never did like this. What was he doing? They were doing anal sex. So Satan was doing anal sex. When if you go back in the story, Satan transformed to Adam and Eve to a woman. There's also a story there where he teach them to do anal sex. To teach them how do we want to teach them anal sex? Through marriage. He was teaching them that he should marry Eve, Adam should marry Eve, but in a wrong way. That's why Adam had to ask the Most High that if they can do marriage and how to do it properly, because Satan wanted to teach humankind all along to do anal sex. Why? Because he wants to enter the soul, enter the body of them. They want the python spirit in them. But now, this is the key. This is the key. Remember, we read in the traditional Yoruba religion that it's not good to do it, right? It causes sickness and all that. This is part of it, is to cause sickness also in the penis and the genitals, cause sicknesses, but there's a deeper reason for it. Now, as we have now heard all the story, we are going to connect now all the dots together. So now, in conclusion of this story, of all the information I've given to you, I'm going to now give you the secret.
text. But in the beginning of the book it says that Set was the origin of all the gods, but he fell. And we're going to go into the whole fall thing tonight. So it was a later text. So the later text came out of Egypt, or either what we think is Greece is new. Yeah, you got New Greece, but the text that the ancient Etruscans put there is old, and it's the Typhonian thing. The Hermetic material, Hermetica, is a form of the Typhonian. So we're talking about something ancient. So the word Typhonian, you get the word Set, or the word Soot. You get the word Seth. Now I'm going to show you what a true God is. If you go to Hebrew, you will find Seth. Right? If you go to Greece, you will find Set in Greece. If you go to the Gnostic scripture, you will find Set. If you go to the Bible, you'll find Set. If you go to Egypt, you'll find Set. He's the only deity that's in all of them. He's the most true and ancient deity. Concept of the scarab. You have it as the scarab. It's dormant. It hangs around dung, shit, or shut, which is, do you know the word shit is an ancient name for God? You get the word soot, set, soot, shut, shit, excrement. You see, and it hangs around shit, and then it grows wings into Kephra, and that represents illumination. You see what I'm saying? Now, this soot set becomes Seption, I think that's how to spell it, or it becomes Soot on, later on Shaitan, and the SH, Shaitan, same people, they have linguistic things. We also use a T. We also use a T, we use a D, and we use a SH. We use all these different sounds and stuff, but based on the migrations of the tribes, Shaitan is also pronounced down the road Titan. Titan and Shaitan or Satan is the same thing. You get satanic, titanic. Concept of the scarab. You have it as the scarab. It's dormant. It hangs around dung, shit, or shut, which is, do you know the word shit is an ancient name for God? You get the word soot, set, soot, shut, shit, excrement. You see, and it hangs around shit, and then it grows wings into Kephra, and that represents illumination.
Venus is Aphrodite. Aphrodite is who? Shaitan or Satan, which is Set. Set. Remember, Set, the word is related to where shit. That's where the shit comes from. Okay? Which is the Kephra, or the dung beetle in the anus, the spirit, that converts shit with the anacyclical semen and produces life, which is the snake cobra that runs up the spine, which is the Kundalini, which appears as the third eye in the forehead as a snake crown, or pharaoh, or humans, spiritual. That's what happens spiritually. Why is that important? Because now what has to do with the cow, the ant, which is the life? Well, because Satan was a cherubim, okay, which had a bull face in the heavenlies. You remember he had different faces. So he had a bull face. He had it to do something bad, to be opposing the creator, which is called witchcraft, which means manipulating the inner body energy. Instead to run in the right direction, his energy started in the wrong direction. So he started with the thought, and there's a ritual that we're doing in the heavenlies. which is revealed in that what I'm showing you the book of Adam and Eve. Okay, the ritual that was doing in heavenly was the act of sex or shit that you see in the which was the anal sex. Okay, so what happened was Satan had anal intercourse with his angels, his evil angels. They had this evil messenger. They had anal intercourse. Okay, on that anal intercourse, they created the Python spirit within them. Okay, he created the Python spirit within them. That was called the dragon and the serpent. Okay, also he created a Python spirit within them, and the Kundalini started rising because they created a new energy system, a new energy frequency within them. But then he manipulated his own energy. He and his entities, his fallen angels, all went into anal sex, and they manipulated a new energy within their body, which is known as the Shatanic powers, which is the Shatanic frequency, a Shatanic principle. Well, that principle was a thing in there. That's why he came and possessed the what? The so-called snake in the Garden of Eden. Okay? He possessed it, which is in the book of Adam and Eve. Talks about it. That's why the book of Revelation called the snake that was in the Garden of Eden. Talks about that. Okay? That was the spirit. That's what it's all about. So he was a cherubim, and that bird, that horn, that was authority and power, that was involved with anal sex. Well, that anal sex is what rises the Kundalini. That is the ancient doctrine, the mystery system of what Shaitan revealed unto the Egyptians, unto what rules the world, because the entire world is ruled by this spiritual system. That's why in the secret society, it is one of the highest sexual rituals. They go into anal sex, which is the Kundalini awakening. And from there it rules the entire world, because it manipulates the consciousness of every follower. It manipulates the consciousness of all followers of Shaitan. Even the angels and the humans and any creature is now manipulated by it, and has become one of that energy. And that's why the word Shaitan is related to shit, because shit is shit, which is the anal sex, which is the penis entering the anus where the shit is, which is the Kefra, the beetle, the dung beetle, okay, that converts it with the shit, the semen, and produces the Kundalini or the Python or the corpus thing, which goes to spine. This is the mystery system of ancient Egypt and the magical power on the secret society that they used to rule the world. It is the war between the anus, the sex of anus, and the sex of the womb, the vagina. The sex of natural creation and the sex of Shatanic creation. The sex of the creation of the Almighty Creator is the vagina, versus the sex, the anal sex, the sex of Shaitan, of Satan, shit, Seti, Venus, Lucifer, Ankh, symbolism. These were the two wars, and that's why it is more sweeter to make love with what? A woman, right? Than with a man. That's what it's trying to say. And this is the war that we are facing, and because the anal sex has its teachings and its frequencies and its principles. Okay, he has a ways, he has spirituality, his own magic system, his own rituals, his own ways of doing things. That is the anal sex, the Shatanic sex. Okay. Whereas the vaginal sex, which is the sex between man and woman, okay, which is only that, has its own system, which is the creation of how the Creator creates his own principles, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, based on the sex between husband and wife, man and woman, male and female, which is its own principle, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and expression of metaphysics in this reality, which is from the Almighty Creator, which is the strongest and the original is man and woman, and is the more loving kind and lovely one. But the anal sex is not, and that's why Satan uses bisexuality, meaning a man will have sex with a woman, children, and at the same time anal sex, to reproduce, to convert everything that comes from the Creator, create it, and produce it in the Shatanic form, which is the anal sex, the underworld. The underworld creation. And that means that every time we go into the future, according to the understanding, we are going into a new underworld level. Because the underworld level is changing from time to time. It's going to be more Shatanic, more evil from time to time. This is the Shatanic principle. So he utilizes the production between male and female so that he can have anal sex with the woman and the man and the beast and every spirit. Or do spiritual raping, like people will involve into being raped spiritually by the anus in the dream world, another form of initiation. Okay, so that the Kundalini can enter them and it can be infiltrated and used by Satan, and Satan's energy, the cobra and the python, is there. This was the mystery system, and this is what happened. And these are all the facts that you see. All the facts. You have seen the facts from the Occult Society, from scholars, from people that experienced that, okay, from history, okay, and from all those things. And Satan wants to have this anal sex, okay, to produce the snake, and the other one is when the snake is produced, the eggs are there. So now he can lay his hand on people who are the so-called false prophets or false priests, who can lay their hands on people and put the eggs in all of the people. They have the female and the male snake, the male and the female snake, in every individual, to possess the consciousness so that they can do anal sex. Because the more they have anal sex, okay, the more he can create a new underworld and pervert the world and pervert the womb of a man, the womb of a woman, okay? Because he's manipulating reality through anal sex, which is the underworld, creating this world to an underworld. We have different levels of underworld. That way he came to steal, to kill, and to destroy. That's all he came. He is the spirit of death. He is death personified as an energy to destroy humanity, destroy this reality. That's why you got to be anti-Shatanic, or join the anti-Shatanic movement. Join KEASAM, Chemical Evolution, Anti-Shatanic Ascending Movements. Till then.